I spent 19 years growing 5 businesses to 8, 7, and 6 figures. And in this video, I share with you the 10 most valuable tips and advices that I learned along the way that I wish I knew earlier. Let's get to it. Hey guys, my name's Yahya, founder and creator of Record Breaker, where I help you shatter past your highest revenue record months in the shortest amount of time. And because I'm a structured thinker, the way we're going to do this is from small to big. So it doesn't matter if you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, someone who's starting out a business, someone who has 2 people, or someone who has 200 people. These rules apply across the board. And the first rule is the power of focus. Learn to do one thing and do it extremely well before you even entertain the idea of branching out into a million different places like most people do. They make a little bit of money and then they're like, all right, what's the next shiny object that I can put my hands into, invest into, boom, boom, boom. Why? Because people are looking for shortcuts, and it's the shortcut mentality that prevents you from growing something into something that is truly great. So instead of thinking about 1 year or 2 years, I like to think in 10-year sprints. Like, what can I get done in 10 years? And the beauty of 10 years is that most of your competition, which is there for the good times or which is there for a quick buck, is going to be out. The only people left in any single business after 10 years are the ones who are serious, who've decided to do it for the rest of their life, and who've decided to give a mind-blowing experience to the end user. So focus, do a great job, stick with it, don't get distracted, don't start investing left, right, and center. Rule number 2, if you are not ashamed of the first version of your product in the market, then, my friend, you were too late to the market. Story time. Many years ago, I'm sitting having dinner with my friend, and we're talking about all these ideas, things I want to do, and she's like, why aren't you doing it? I'm like, well, I'm trying to figure out the name and the branding and the logo, and this is real. This is a real story. I spent thousands of dollars on creating branding and logo and colors that I never ended up using. So more often than not, a lot of people just like me will get stuck in perfection. Newsflash, most of the people I work with today, most of them tell me that I have a website, I have funnels, I have landing pages, boom, 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 and ask them how much money are you making, and it's either zero or, $1,000 or $2,000, and that's it. Don't get hung up in all the fancy stuff. If you have an MVP, a minimum viable product, put it in the market and see how the market responds, because the market never lies. Don't waste your time waiting for things to be perfect. They will never be perfect. The third rule is if you are too big to do the little things, you're going to be too small to experience the big things. This is why everybody who's starting out, I always advise them, learn to do it yourself. Learn the ins and outs of your business. You need to master every single aspect before you can train someone else to do it, before you can outsource it. Because if you don't, invariably, you will lose out and you will stop knowing what's happening in your business. Somebody else will come in, take over, and then they have free reign over your business to either make it go up or ruin it completely. Do not make that mistake. Learn to do the difficult things in your business. You will thank yourself later for having done so. Do not have partners who have the same skill set as you do. A lot of people make this mistake where they go into business with their best friend or their colleague, and they both have exactly the same skill set. It doesn't make sense, because the moment you start making money, the moment you start going up, there's going to be friction, there's going to be fights, there's going to be different approaches to the same thing, and both of you will end up squabbling over what to do in one particular area, whereas all the other areas go unattended. Don't make this mistake. Essentially, one of you is going to be on your way towards redundancy. It's better to hire people who have complementary skill sets, so each of you is great in your area. The next rule I learned is to be slow to hire and be fast to fire. You take your time in hiring people. Why? Because I am huge on company culture. I've built businesses from 0 to 1 million, and I've done it because I created an environment of high performance. And if you have an environment of high performance, you also have an environment of people who take ownership of the results that the company produces. And if you happen to introduce in that mix a person who doesn't align, a person who for whatever reason is not a team player and doesn't have the same mission and vision as the company, you're going to ruin the culture of the company. They're not worth it. So I take my time in hiring people. I often start people off with an experimental 1 month or 2 month trial period where I get used to seeing how they work. They get used to my culture and the culture that I strongly advocate for. And if we're a great fit, we can move on to longer term relationships. If we're not, you're a great person, we're a great company, but we're just not a good fit. All the best in the future. Bye-bye. Skills can always be taught. Values cannot. I made very serious, grievous mistakes in the past of hiring people based off of their track record only and not assessing their character, because at the end of the day, especially if you have someone in a leadership position, character matters almost as much as skill. You do not want someone who is a talented, hotshot rock star and who's arrogant and who's cocky and who treats other people unfairly, because that again is going to ruin the company culture. Values like integrity, loyalty are far more important in a company than just the numbers on a sheet, because a lot of people can can do that. You can train people to do that. You cannot train a person to have a good character. They either have it or they don't. And it's vital to have that in place before you move on to skills. The next rule, and shout out to Adil Zaman, who used to be the marketing director at Pfizer, my direct boss, who taught me this, and that is, you're not in business to make friends. So don't be afraid of having difficult conversations. The more difficult conversations you have, the better you're going to get at having them. Story time. More than a decade ago, I was recruited into Pfizer and I was given a couple of tasks to do. And because those tasks were gathering market information, sales numbers, and research from a lot of people, I had to step on a lot of toes. And I was being very apprehensive and very hesitant about it. And I went to my boss and I was like, look, they're not going to like it if I ask them for what their numbers are, why they're not performing this, that, and the other. And he was like, Yahya, you are not here to make friends. This is not a college. You're not here to make people like you. You're here to do your job. And your job involves having a difficult conversation with lots of people, making them aware of what's happening, figuring out what's happening, getting together and solving the problem. Sooner or later, I became so comfortable that it didn't feel like a difficult conversation at all, not just to me, but to the other person as well. Go ahead, have that conversation. The more difficult conversations you have, the less difficult your business is going to be. Let's move on to the next rule, which is inherently linked to the same rule. And that is, people work for people. People do not work for organizations or businesses. So you need to learn people skills. You need to learn sales. A lot of people think sales is scammy, salesy, is door-to-door. No, sales is every time you're having a conversation with someone else, making them feel heard and understood and validating, sharing your point of view with them, and hopefully winning them to your point of view. Winning them to your point of view, not leveraging them or manipulating them. That is sales. And the better you get at working with people, getting people to align with you on a shared mission, the faster you're going to grow and the more loyalty you're going to have from your people as a leader. You could have it with your bosses, you could have it with your peers, you could have it with people under you, but you need people skills. Do not expect to run a good, successful, thriving business based off of data alone. So you have to understand and you have to draw a line between getting people to do what you want them to do without bending over backwards and accommodating them way too much than needed. The next thing is you want to focus on long-term value of your customer. What that means is do not focus on one-off deals. Do not try to get rich off of one-off deals. Focus on delivering sustained value throughout the length of a client who stays with you. Try to increase the period that a client stays with you, because these are the hallmarks of quality product. Whether you're selling a service or a product or consulting, doesn't matter. The better you are, the longer your clients are going to want to work with you and stay with you. And the longer you exponentially increase your chances of staying in business. Services that people give, and once they've given the service, they run off because they don't want to work with the customer again. The easiest customer in the world, the easiest person to sell to, is someone you've sold to before, delivered a product, and they loved it. So the more you do this, the longer you do this, the more you create an army of loyal customers who will continue to buy from you again and again and again. But what it involves is spending time in perfecting and refining your product. With my AI company, a lot of the initial money that we made, we reinvested back into making the product better based off of the insights of all our customers. And we ended up with a great product. The next piece of advice I got was regarding pivoting and looking at trajectory. So we all think that our trajectory needs to be linear, going straight up like that. That's not how life works. In business, your trajectory will be all over the place. Sometimes you'll go up, sometimes you'll go down, sometimes you go left, sometimes you go right. Your trajectory will only make sense when you look back, provided you have a North Star and you know where you're going. It doesn't matter to pivot. It doesn't matter where you're going. Stop trying to make sense of every single thing that's happening, as long as it's moving you towards your goal. For example, if you're climbing Mount Everest, you will never do it in a straight line. You will often go left because there's a boulder ahead of you. There's going to be snowstorms. You might go right. You might stay in a place. You might change path, but essentially you're still scaling the mountain. And that's the way you should approach your business. The same thing is true for your career. If you happen to work for a company right now and you're being moved and rotated and you don't like the departments you're in, guess what? The same thing happened to me. But later on, having that experience was the ultimate reason I got hired for much more powerful and higher and better paying leadership positions. And speaking of leadership positions, the bonus rule for everybody watching this is you need to have a guidance mechanism. You need to have a guiding principle, a guiding light. You need to have something that'll help you make decisions, because the longer you stay in business and the higher you go, the harder the decisions are going to get. The more you're going to be tempted, the more you're going to be distracted, the more ethical conundrums will pop up. The principles can be whatever. Maybe the principle is to make more money. So all your decisions should be based on what makes you more money. You can add in another dimension to the principle and you can say, okay, we want to make more money in the long run. We don't want to make money in the short run. That'll help you with your decisions. The third dimension can be, we want to make more money ethically in the long run, which again means that you will stay away from anything that's even remotely unethical. And so the more robust your decision-making mechanism is, and the more it aligns with you as a person and aligns with your business as a company, the easier it's going to be to make even the hardest decisions. These are the rules that have served me very well. I hope this has been useful. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.